Hello and welcome to the next edition of the lead up to the World Cup, or rather, should I call it Pakistan's road to Ahmedabad. Pakistan have two boogie teams, we all know who they are, and just like in 2019, they're one after the other. In 2019, it was Australia and Taunton, India and Manchester. The horrors of that week still haven't left me. This year, it's exactly the same, except just the other way around. We've got India in Ahmedabad and Australia in Bangalore. I've got Zaid with me. Zaid, these two games could well decide the fate of Pakistan in this tournament. Is it going to be a smooth road, or is it going to be a little stutter that we'll see in this week?
Well, historic evidence suggests it will be another horror show for Pakistan, unfortunately. But look, it's not a case of skill. Pakistan, everyone says on their day can beat anyone, which they can. But it's just the mind, the mental strength, and India over the years have become a lot better. And Australia, especially in ICC games. So, and the problem is, look, if Pakistan go into these games with a defeat against Sri Lanka, then it's game over pretty much. If you lose, both these games back to back, then you're pretty much out of the tournament, and you're into the if my third cousin beats my first cousin.
The favors, all that, the calculations that Pakistan are expert at coming out, all the Excel spreadsheets that start coming out, no planning up until then, and then all the planning comes in, and then the corner Tigers team comes in. And when you're talking about it, I actually think that may actually end up happening, that corner Tigers mentality. But hopefully, 2 wins going into the India game. Look, India are clear favorites. If you asked me a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I would have said, just before the Asia Cup, I would have said, yeah, they're one of the favorites, but they're not clear. But I think now, when I look at their team, there doesn't seem to be a single spot of weakness.
Yeah, I agree. Look, we'll come on to India, I guess, in a bit more detail. I think for Pakistan, it's all about momentum. If they can come into this game with 2 wins, then I'd say they're 60-40 underdog still. But if they come into it with a defeat or a tough game against Netherlands and defeat against Sri Lanka, I'd say it's like 90-10.
I think you're doing a disservice to Pakistan. When you say 60-40, you need to make it 80-20 in India's favor, just so Pakistan feel that pressure off them, the real underdog tags, because that's when they thrive, right? In the 2017 final, nobody gave them a chance, but they came good. I think the point is, when you look at India's 11, right, they've been doing really well of late. But you've got to remember that, if you get a wicket, 1 brings 2, 2 brings 3. You've got Rahul at 4, who was excellent against Pakistan. I think he's going to be at number 4. But, we've seen for a while him struggle at the international stage in big games, right? So you have players who have enormous potential, even Shubman Gill, all these who are excellent. But, sometimes, with that extra flamboyance comes that extra chance of getting them out, and you have to think positively, right? You've got Shaheen Afridi, you've got Haris, you have to think this team was the world number 1 team for an albeit very short period, and we had helpful fixtures along the way, but we certainly were doing something right. I think it boils down to what you said at the start, is who handles the pressure better, right? India have always been better, but at some point you have to think that the pressure has to be building on them, because the expectations just keep getting higher and higher, especially now at home. And now that Pakistan have got at least the T20 monkey off their back in 21, maybe this may be a chance for them to do the same in the ODI format. I guess a lot depends on the toss as well, right?
I'm not too sure. In Ahmedabad, look, it's probably going to be a win toss bowl first and chase down 450. But look, I think moving on to India's strengths. I think they by far they're clear favorites, not just for that match but for the entire tournament. But for Pakistan, it's just a game of holding their nerves. That's been the problem every time Pakistan have come out to bat. At least they've been too fearful, and with that top 4, again, I'm not too confident that they'll get off to a flying start. They might be 50 for none in 15 overs. But it's that taking the game by the scruff of its neck. The way Shubman Gill did in the second game, stepping out to Shaheen Afridi. I'm not sure they have that confidence in them to do that. And I think that's what they need to do.
Yeah. And you have to think about why the format has evolved all this time, right? I mean, the reason is because people realize fielding restrictions need to be taken advantage of, right? The power play, the first 10 overs, you need to take advantage of it. And the issue with 50 after 15 is a couple of wickets just sets you back big time, because then neither do you have the runs, neither you have the momentum, nothing. You're just basically going, like meandering just in the middle, stuttering your way without any real direction. But if we think about it positively, Mohammad Siraj was brilliant against Sri Lanka, but it's one of those displays that just happened once, in a blue moon. Or, I mean, maybe I'm being unfair, but, like Mohammad Amir against India in that 2016 game, like, it's not going to happen every time, right? You have to think, like, Siraj is a very fine bowler, but he's not invincible. Bumrah is a very fine bowler, not invincible. People have off days, and people have days where you don't get, like a crazy number of wickets for no runs, you know what I mean? So I think we'd have to be positive. I think Kuldeep Yadav, Pakistan really need to play well. You need to remember that this is a guy who has enormous skill because he is unique, but I still am not convinced he has that mental strength. So when you put pressure on him, I want to see how he responds. It may not be as smooth as a more experienced campaigner.
And Jason Roy is not picked for England's World Cup squad, so he is free if you want a last-minute batting mentor, just for Kuldeep Yadav. But look, in all seriousness, I agree. I think that's going to be Pakistan's Achilles heel, playing Kuldeep Yadav. And look, we've all been there where we're hopeful Pakistan can do this, do that, but realistically speaking, if we hear all these Indian experts saying, India are clear favorites, we get really annoyed. Oh, why are they saying this? But objectively, if you think about it, if you had to put 50,000 pounds on this game,
less than that even, come on. I mean, sorry, Zahid, I mean, you're a rich guy, but 50,000, I would say 100 pounds, I wouldn't do it. But no, look, the thing is, ultimately, right, what I'm more interested in, what songs does the stadium play when Pakistan have just got a wicket or they're in control, which probably may not happen that often, but is it going to be Billie Jean by Michael Jackson again? Or is it Thriller this time? Or are we going to go into maybe another genre and have Taylor Swift or Katy Perry's Firework? Or what's going to happen? Because if you remember, again, I mentioned this 2011, they didn't really have many of those patriotic songs. They're these random sort of Hollywood songs that even the Pakistanis probably were a bit confused about. And my second question is, what is the commentator list for that game?
I think you've gone into a lot more detailed analysis that even the ICC doesn't know yet.
Exactly that. Exactly. I was happy to see the umpires, although we have Marais Erasmus. We all know what call he made against Nawaz, but of course he's a good guy. Because I know him personally, of course. But look, and just speaking of commentators, it's good to see Ramiz Raja back. And it's also quite funny to see that here's a guy who last year said that if India don't come to Pakistan for the Asia Cup, we're not going to go to India. And there he is in Hyderabad wearing the Nehru jacket or whatever he was wearing, standing next to Sunil Gavaskar. And I was like, classic Pakistan.
It is what it is. The guy has to, get paid. But anyways, just finishing off the analysis for on India. What do you think they're going to do overall in the tournament, and what do you think is going to happen in India versus Pakistan?
Pakistan fans, look away. If I have to think now, this is very, very really. If I think from the mind, I would think that India will be losing finalists. But if I think from the heart, India will be losing finalists. But if I think from the mind, I think India. Look, the last few World Cups are won by the host, and I think this. Just like the England World Cup, I think this is where the host is also the best team for the conditions. So I think India, I expect them to win.
Completely agree. That's an Indian double for me. India are going to win against Pakistan on the 14th of October. Sincere apologies to the Pakistan fans. We're just trying to be objective here. And as I've been saying in kind of pretty much all our conversations previously, India, for me, are hot favourites to win the World Cup. I put them on par with Australia of 2003 and 2007 in terms of how good they are and the gap between them and the rest of the teams in the World Cup.
So that's a really good point, because the point I want to make is actually the 2003 Australia team, was invincible, but it wasn't perfect. They had gaps. They had Brad Hogg, who had to hold the spin department. and Darren Lehman at number 5. Again, you got Shane Warne, who was banned like a day before the first game, right? So it wasn't perfect, right? And in India, similar. But yeah, look, I agree with you. I probably won't go as far because I think that Australia team had 4 years of dominance before them, and look, I think Australia are just winners by DNA. I think India are on the way there. I don't think they're there yet. I also think when you think of someone invincible, I think you have to think of them across format. I think Australia used to take a lot of their confidence from their absolute dominance across all formats. India are not there yet, but still very strong.
Agree and disagree. I think it's just an inkling feeling. But speaking of Australia, it's a good segue to move on to the next game. I think the only thing in Pakistan's favor for that match is that it's in Chennai. And so maybe with spin playing a big part, it might neutralize the extra advantage Australia have with their paces and how Pakistan struggles against the Australian pace attack.
Cricket is one of those sports, right? I say this, like it's the reason we love it is the perfect example of a team game and an individual game at the same time. It's 11 versus 11. It's a team game at the end of it, but one bowler bowls to one batter at any one point in time because so your fate lies in the hands of one player at one point in time. So it's all about how that player handles the pressure. It's not like football where someone else can step up or whatever. I mean, it really does boil down to individual performance on a given day. And that does unfortunately hinge a lot on your ability to absorb and overcome the pressure. That's the point. Now, you were talking about the conditions may be favorable in some ways, but actually Bangalore has one of the smaller boundaries. That's something that...
Is it Bangalore or is it Chennai? I think they're playing in Chennai.
No, Bangalore.
Bangalore is New Zealand.
Bangalore's Australia also.
Really?
Chennai is Afghanistan and South Africa.
Okay, all right.
That's where Pakistan really wanted to change, right? They wanted to switch Australia and Afghanistan in classic Pakistan style. It's like one of those, just before your school exam, you're quickly telling the teacher to include some of the chapters, only the chapters that you've studied, and just hope that those come. I mean, that's exactly what Pakistan tried to do there. No, so Afghanistan, unfortunately, we're playing Australia on an absolute flat feather bed with the smallest boundaries.
Then scrap everything I said. Then it's 400 versus 400.
I mean, I think it's 400 versus 180. I mean, if Australia score 400, I mean, if Pakistan get past 200, I will be elated, right? Pakistan just don't do that. So, look, unfortunately with those short boundaries, a lot depends on how well our spinners do. We come to this again and again and again and again, but because of the second power play rules with an extra fielder inside the circle, our lack of practice in ODI cricket being an issue for the spinners like Shadab, etc., all this comes together in something that I feel a bit uneasy about with those small boundaries, right? So Pakistan, I think toss is crucial. Especially in that game because I think there's more dew at the Chinnaswamy. And look, the only thing you can just bank on is Australia haven't had the smoothest start to the World Cup, as in their prep to the World Cup. I don't think they're as strong as they might have been a couple of years ago in their batting, as well as, dare I say, because of the conditions in their bowling. People questioning Cummins and whether he should be in the playing 11.
Yeah, surprising. Questioning the captain's position in the team. Where has that happened? Where has that happened before?
Sarfraz Ahmed fans.
But look, I think Australia, I'd still back them to do pretty well. I mean, my prediction is they will beat Pakistan. Unfortunately, sorry, Pakistan fans. I don't know why I'm wearing this shirt. Everybody must be questioning what am I doing after this. I mean, what's going on?
No, you know what? I think we lose to India. But I think we'll beat Australia.
But overall, Australia, I think in the tournament, I backed them to do well. Losing semi-finalists is my prediction.
Just like 2019. Look, I think there are lots of pundits who are saying actually, those that think Pakistan will make it in the four usually leave out Australia if they think South Africa will make it. I think it's going to be a toss-up. South Africa were looking really strong. They were Klaassen and Miller. We'll talk about South Africa in another episode. But with Nokia out, I say Nokia I think it's Nokia, but I think and given coupled with the fact that Australia are 5-time World Cup winners, they must be doing something right. I think
it's going to be like you losing semi-finalists. So there you have it. This was sort of the big preview. So thank you, Zahid, and we'll speak again shortly. Thanks.